I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. My name is Jason Hines. I'm the Vice President of Risk and Compliance at Heartland, and I would like to welcome everyone to the International Luxury Hotel Association webinar on navigating HR challenges for hotels in 2023. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the strategies for attracting, retaining, and developing talent in the face of a lot of the shifting dynamics in this industry. Again, my name is Jason. I'll be moderating today, and I'll be joined by a panel of fantastic industry experts. First, we have Jerry Williams-Fitz, who is the Chief People Officer at Highgate. Welcome, Jerry.
Thank you so much for having me, Jason.
Do you have, feel free to introduce yourself a little bit more and some of your qualifications.
Terrific. Thank you. Such an important topic to be talking about, particularly right now. As mentioned, I'm the Chief People Officer for Highgate, and we are a global hotel organization with well over 550 hotels. I've gotten the honor to represent Highgate for over 15 years, and my responsibility is for aligning our people and business strategy and leading the development and implementation of key initiatives throughout our organization, and continuing to ensure continued development of a strong and effective, and respective organization within the world of hospitality. I've been in hospitality for well over 35 years, and honored to be representing us today.
Well, fantastic. Appreciate the introduction, and I look forward to your contributions on the webinar today. Next, we have Rachel Boggin, and she is the General Manager at Saratoga Arms Hotel.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Rachel Boggin. I am the General Manager, as you said, of the Saratoga Arms Hotel, a small 30-room boutique hotel in upstate New York, in the city of Saratoga Springs. I also, similar to Jerry, have been in hospitality management my entire career. Prior to joining the Saratoga Arms, I was a general manager in a small fine dining restaurant group here locally that had 4 restaurants and 2 private event spaces. So hiring across multiple hospitality companies for many, many years. And I'm thrilled to be here. I think this will be a really great conversation.
Okay, thank you very much, Rachel. And next, rounding out our panel, we have Mark Fowler, and he's the Director of Retirement Education at Human Interest. Welcome, Mark.
Well, thank you so much, Jason. Absolute privilege to be here. And I feel like I'm amongst incredible company with Rachel and Jerry on the call. I work with a company called Human Interest, and my job is working with partners and clients on how do we really leverage retirement benefits to support particularly small and medium business, but the rules for small and medium business also apply all the way up the scale. So I spent a lot of time talking through how do we really take advantage of the options that are out there to really empower our businesses moving forwards. And just as a side note, as close as I can get to the hotel industry is I actually spent 10 years in the luxury yacht industry, which in my mind is a floating hotel. So, I'll sort of take that as close as I can get to the 35 years of experience in the hospitality arena.
Okay, I'll have to, hopefully you got to test out some of those yachts when you were in there.
Yeah, I look very good in uniform too, Jason.
Okay, great. All right, thank you, Mark. And today's webinar is sponsored by Heartland. So let's go ahead and get started talking about navigating HR challenges in the hotel industry. So I'd like to start off by just getting each of your perspectives on maybe an overview of some of the challenges that the industry is facing right now in the realm of talent management. Who would like to start and maybe give an overview of your perspective on that topic?
I'll be happy to start.
Okay.
My favorite topic, Jason. I'm sure you all will join me. The challenges that we're facing today have certainly been unprecedented, and they require a huge amount of attention and innovative solutions. Some of the key challenges I think we can all agree on is talent acquisitions and retention. Finding and attracting skilled talent remains a significant challenge in hotels. the competition from other industries and changing workforce demographics have made it really crucial for hotels to develop really effective recruitment strategies that we really had not necessarily utilized in the past, and really look at our employer branding initiatives more than ever, because retaining that top talent is so equally important as to acquiring, competitive compensation packages, career growth opportunities, and positive working environments. People want to work for a company that cares. So identifying some of those key challenges, such as employee engagement and satisfaction, workforce diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then, of course, employee well-being and work-life balance have come into scope more so than ever. Added to that and coupled with that is the compliance and labor laws and regulations. Hotels are working really hard to navigate those complexities of labor laws and regulations that carry across many jurisdictions. So from an HR perspective, from an operator perspective, these aren't HR challenges. They require a strategic approach and collaboration between our operational teams, our human resources teams, and our leadership teams to really commit to development and well-being within all of our hotels to retain the best talent.
Yeah, and Rachel, in your seat as a general manager, do you see a lot of those same themes that Jerry's referencing?
Absolutely. She gave a wonderful overview of the same challenges. I come from a market that has not only a lot of hospitality competition, but a newly formed competition for other industries that we didn't really feel we needed to compete with in the past. So as we are building pay and benefit structures, looking at scheduling and job descriptions, we can no longer only compare ourselves to the other hospitality organizations in our market. We really need to be looking at completely different industries and seeing how we compare to those different job opportunities that all of our talent is comparing when they are making their job selections. It is hard as an employer that is open 24/7. We are here on nights, weekends, holidays. The rise of remote work is very hard for us to compete with, especially in a luxury, high touch work environment. It's really important to us to have, people here live engaging with our guests. So we're just constantly talking about that dynamic, as many, especially younger workers, are looking for a different level of work-life balance and ability to work remote than sometimes we have the ability to give, and how we are structuring those pay benefits to make it the most appealing to come and join our team.
Okay, yeah, and Mark, this fight for talent, right? The competition for talent, I think, is going to be a big topic today. How has that impacted sort of the space and the retirement benefits?
Well, I mean, just outside of that, we sit at Human Interest, we sit across, we have clients in over 100 something different industries. And I think so many of them echo the same sentiments that Rachel and Jerry have just talked about, that, we are still, yes, we see the newspapers about, oh yes, there's a lot of layoffs from different tech companies. And yet somehow we still sit on the tight side of a fluid labor market. And so, there is this competition for the best people out there. And even if you think, well, I've got the best people on my team, there is somebody else out there who's trying to pull that person away from you. And we see that so loudly echoed in the hospitality and service industries. Because traditionally you've had to show up and you have to work with people, and it's a little more challenging than being able to work from home. And Rachel, I definitely echo what you were saying there. And then picking up on what Jerry was saying about the demographics piece of this, I think that's huge too. The ILO labor force participation suggests that in 2000, there was about 6% of the workforce was what we call Gen Z. By the time we hit 2030, that number is going to be north of 30%. And that generation, I think you alluded to it earlier as well, Jerry, are approaching employment very differently than previous generations. I don't know if they are better informed or they have different priorities, but they are coming in loaded with a different perspective. And so to a large degree, what got us here in terms of hiring the previous generations won't get us there where we want to go with this new generation. In particular, they seem to be very, very focused on sort of security, long-term wealth, what we call generational wealth building, those kinds of things. They're very, very interested in how do I set myself up now for later on. And that obviously then for us ties directly into retirement benefits. But, you know, as Jerry and Rachel will say, there's a number of other key areas that you can tap into to keep that feeling of, yeah, we're an organization that cares about you now and cares about you in the future. And I think that's, you know, Jerry, I see you nodding your head. I think that's probably going to be a theme that we talk about today as an organization. How do we show we care? Because everyone can offer a package, but it's that caring trust element that I think probably stands people out in that competition for labor.
Yeah, that's really great perspective. And I'm excited to dive into some of the solutions that that people can employ to overcome some of these challenges. And let's first start in the conversation about attracting that talent, right? Before we can get them in the doors and convince them that they want to stay and be retained, we've got to actually find the top talent out there. So Jerry, I'm going to ask you, when you're thinking about attracting that top talent, can you maybe speak a little bit to the importance of putting your best foot forward as an employer and really making that first impression and standing out in the marketplace?
Certainly, you know, speaking about Highgate in particular, and I loved what Mark and Rachel just said. You know, when we first began our business, we did it with a simple but very powerful phrase, whatever it takes. And we started with a few business relationships and grew the organization, all of which we maintain today. But within our organization, that people first philosophy has led to some of our highest retention and our lowest turnover rates in the industry. And I really think that the war on talent really starts with that, what Mark said. It's that employer branding. Your hiring practice is your vital building block to the pursuit of an inspired and empowered workforce. So developing a strong employer brand that showcases your hotel or your company as an attractive place to work is a critical way to highlight your organization, highlighting the unique aspects of your organization, your culture, your values, your benefits, your career development opportunities. All of those pieces leverage you as an employer of choice. And now with social media into the scope and career websites, but mostly social media, communicating that brand effectively is of critical importance. I couldn't agree more with Mark to say that the generation now joining the workforce has not a different set of values, but an intensified set of values. Those also incorporate cultural competency and multi-generational and gender inclusivity. So ensuring that you're looking at the employment recognition engagement is of course a huge focus for us as an organization. Emphasis on employee well-being, prioritizing the well-being of your associates and your workforce by promoting those work-life balance initiatives or wellness programs and providing resources for physical and mental health support is something that I do believe is a high point and trigger. And then equally, in order to go ahead and really bring in top talent, you have to look at the work environment and i.e. culture of philanthropic and sustainability practices through ESG. All of those things combined, really, if you implement those strategies, hotels or organizations can enhance their appeal as employers of choice and create an environmental impact that attracts and retains top talent in this really competitive industry.
Yeah, that's really great perspective. And Rachel, are you sort of a lot of the same themes for attracting top talent where you sit?
Yeah, absolutely. Similar to what Jerry said, you really are no longer marketing only to the guest. You are marketing to a future employee and making sure that you are well aware of the expectations of what your potential and current employees are looking for in an organization that they choose to join. They're looking for transparency on your building performance, strong social and community connections, environmental stewardship. These are all things that as an organization, you need to be very versed in and make sure is forefront in your employee marketing efforts. That's very much what the new generation is looking for in any employer, that they feel very engaged in the overall mission of who you are as a company, and how you choose to show up in the community that you are in. We are constantly making sure that, everything from pay structure, benefit structure, job descriptions, job progression timelines are all very aligned with what this new generation is looking for. Similar to what Mark said earlier, they're really evaluating their relationship to work in a different way than we saw even just 3 or 4 years ago, and making sure that we are keeping up with that pace of change, and being responsive to what this workforce is looking for.
Yeah, and I know at Heartland, a lot of you look around at the top performers within our business, and many of them were referrals from top performers that are currently at the company. So, creating that great place to work and then getting others to refer other great people in, I think makes a big difference. Mark, anything to add on those comments so far?
Yeah, I mean, what we see is, if we drive in a little more sort of tactically from our perspective in the retirement industry, we see two things. First of all, the Gen Z population that's coming in, they are so focused on retirement savings as to be the number one generation in saving for retirement. And they're literally only joining the workforce just now. They are saving, typically 70% of them are actually have engaged in retirement savings already. And they're saving at a higher rate than even those who are about to hit retirement. They're saving at about 14%, according to the BlackRock study. Now, what that means is that is a very, very tactical benefit that's going to appeal to them directly. But then specifically, when we come in and we talk generally now across the entire workforce, retirement benefits are the second most requested benefit overall. Number one, probably under nobody's surprise here, is health insurance benefits, right? And that's almost like table stakes. Jerry, Rachel, I'm sure, like you wouldn't even think about putting a job posting out there without health benefits, right? And then the one that sits right below retirement benefits is time off. So right in there is retirement benefits, and that shows you how dedicated or how important people think of retirement benefits, particularly now at the younger end of the market. And so I can talk from my own experience. When I go looking for a job, I look at what the position's all about, but I do scroll all the way down to the bottom of that job posting, and I'm looking at, yes, does this have the benefits package that I'm looking for, including a retirement package? But that's not it. I'm now asking, does the company invest in that retirement with what we call a match as well, right? Because I know that that is essentially compounding money that that organization wants to give me. So they are not only taking care of me now, they're taking care of me later. And we see that reflected time and time again as a big thing for people joining the market, joining the workforce now.
Yeah,
and
Rachel,
Jason, if I could just jump in here really quickly, many organizations, and I know Mark will agree, they eliminated their match during the pandemic periods and really changed some of those benefit structures because of the time we were in. And so everyone's really working hard to kind of retool their benefits for the new way of working and the demands that we're seeing in the workforce, which really were dissipated during the pandemic period.
Yeah, and that's that's incredibly interesting. And Rachel, from your perspective, whenever you're like tactically about to make an offer, right, or you're doing a job posting, you had mentioned earlier that you're not just competing within the hotel space anymore, right? You're having to benchmark across multiple industries. What are sort of the things that you do to make sure that offer you're about to make is competitive?
We are constantly wage surveying, job surveying our markets to make sure that what we are offering is competitive, again, not only within our industry, but to other industries that are hiring locally. And when we put together our benefits packages, we very much try to meet our staff where they are and come up with benefits that can be the most impactful to their everyday life. So if I am hiring a new management executive, it is a no-brainer for all new hires that we have a health insurance benefit and a retirement benefit, but it may be more personal and professional development focused for a younger management and training hire versus a new housekeeping staff member. And a benefit that would be the most impactful to their life may be our uniform reimbursement program or our weekly family meal program that allows them to bring home a meal to their immediate family once a week. And so we're trying to be very creative with the offerings that we include in our package to really be the thing that is the most impactful to each individual team member's lives. And we are lucky as a small property that we can really tailor those packages to each new hire to make sure it is the most impactful for them.
Yeah, and Jerry, you had mentioned that during the pandemic era, a lot of those benefits had kind of maybe gone away. And have you seen them really start to come back and really be top of mind for a lot of talent you're trying to attract?
Yes, I have. Certainly well-being is of a critical component outside of flexible work arrangements. I do see that those competitive compensation packages, not only offering competitive compensation, but also, looking at your local marketing conditions, as Rachel made mention, is of critical importance. Additionally, providing really attractive benefits, not just on the healthcare side, but things that have surfaced, of course, are things like pet insurance and fertility benefits, and benefits that are ancillary benefits, and some of which are associate discount benefits like 360 Blue, things that work hand in hand with various other third parties. Those are of critical importance, but I do agree with Mark that this is a generation that is wanting to secure their retirement savings sooner rather than later. But I would also say paid time off and flexibility to give people that work-life balance is absolutely something that people came to appreciate and can attract a wider pool of candidates if you can accommodate certain needs of your business with a better work-life balance, such as scheduling requirements, split shifts, or some roles that potentially typically had been in-house can now be sourced outward and be home-based.
Okay, yeah, and that's it's really interesting, all the additional benefits that maybe 5 years ago we weren't talking about. Now they're very important, and just the shift in just the short amount of time is really interesting. As employers are finding new creative ways to attract the talent, what are some options that employers have in the way of tax credits to maybe help them fund some of these new benefits and things like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And as I get into that, I just want to say that approach, Rachel, of sort of really personalizing it to your sort of prospective candidates, I bet that really makes them feel seen and valued through even the interview process and stands you further apart just in that. So, but coming to the tax credits, I mean, even ahead of that, first of all, actually, no, I'll circle back on this. So tax credits, picking up on something Jerry mentioned of the fact that, the employer match kind of drifted away whilst the pandemic really had its teeth out. what the government has seen is, yes, we need to do some things to inspire the landscape around savings to change. And so late last year, they introduced a new pack of legislation called the Secure Act 2.0, if anyone wants to go Google it and find out more information. But they introduced a couple of really, really powerful things, particularly on the sort of small, medium business end of the market, because that's where the biggest gap exists. That's where so many companies aren't offering retirement benefits. And so people don't have access and so aren't saving. And so there are really sort of, firstly, two major tax credits that are available. One is if you offer a new plan right now and you have less than 50 employees, there's a good chance the government will, for the first 3 years, give you a tax credit equal to the entire cost of administering that plan for the first 3 years, up to $5,000 a year. And so that's a big piece. All right. So that's the government saying, hey, get in. Now's the time to get a plan up and running, a 401k. Now's the time. Let's go. Second to that, and arguably more powerful, is if you do have a new plan up and running and you decide that, hey, that employer match thing, that's something we can do. And we're actually going to invest in some of our people. For anyone who makes under $100,000 that you give a match to, the government can give you a tax credit of up to $1,000 per employee. So imagine 25 employees under 100,000 that you give a match, or non-elective contribution to. Suddenly, you're getting $25,000 in tax credits at the end of that year. And that's available at 100% for the first 2 years and then phases out over time. But that's a huge, huge tax credit availability. And then in addition, the kind of double whammy for this, Jason, is if you did make that non-elective contribution to your employees, no matter what salary they make, that contribution is also a tax write-off. Now, I know, Jerry, Rachel, like payroll is a huge expense for your organizations. So you can actually use a tax write-off of up to 25% of your payroll. So that's a huge potential tax deduction in conjunction with these tax credits. And so if you've got the right advisor team around you, you can really leverage that. And I know that is not necessarily the only tax credits available, is it, Jason?
No, one of the ones that's been around a long time is the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. And this is a program used by the government to sort of promote hiring of targeted groups, like veterans or individuals receiving public assistance, or even formerly incarcerated individuals. And what you can do is if you hire someone from that targeted group, you can get up to $9,600 per employee, just tax credit for hiring that individual. And it goes to promote a lot of public value of hiring, generally marginalized individuals. So there's lots of different programs and tax credits that I think employers, if they do a little research on, it can really supercharge what they're trying to accomplish, and it can really work really nicely into a lot of their objectives.
And Jason, I also think that ties again into something that Jerry mentioned right at the top of this, which is people coming in now also value a diversified workplace, a sort of, a different culture than perhaps was available before. So that tax credit is almost like the cherry for giving the right kind of culture to the organization.
Yep. And sometimes it's difficult to think through logistically how you get those tax credits. So I know a lot of HR technology companies, they offer software that helps automate that for you. So it's definitely something to ask your payroll provider or HR technology provider. They can help you sort of get the most out of those tax credits. So now I want to shift the conversation a touch to, all right, now we've attracted that top talent and now they've walked in our doors. How do we keep them engaged? How do we keep them productive and make sure that we don't have someone from another industry trying to steal them off. So Jerry, I'll start with you. What are some strategies you use to sort of to hold on to your top talent and keep your top performers happy?
Well, thanks so much. I mean, our people first ethos is our commitment. It's really about prioritizing and valuing the well-being of each individual. And I loved Rachel's personalization. She has a very intimate capability to go ahead and really pour into teams and understand not only what's on the surface, but people want to know that you care about them as a person. And so our people first mentality at Highgate, it reflects the belief that employees are all the foundation of the organization's success, and that the satisfaction and their growth is essential for us to deliver great experiences. So our ethos first really encompasses a couple of core principles. It really talks about the associate well-being, recognizing the importance of fostering that positive work environment where associates feel supported and respected and valued. And that includes, of course, outside of competitive compensation and benefits that we talked about, resource programs that support associates' physical and mental well-being. I think that has been a topic on the rise, for many, many, many months. But professional development, and now that people are in the door, how do we pour into them and be dedicated to their growth and development? It involves offering really remarkable training programs and development opportunities, career advancement paths, mentorship programs. And so we strive and we encourage all of hospitality to really strive to empower associates with the knowledge and skills necessary to be successful in their role. And how do they advance their career? So we often say, who do you want to be? What do you want to be? And how do we help get you there? Equally ensuring that you do that pulse check of engaged associates and really ensure that your associates contribute to the overall success of the organization. Really encouraging that open communication, seeking associate feedback. That fosters a culture of collaboration. It fosters teamwork. And by actively involving your associates in the decision-making processes and recognizing their contributions, you'll create a sense of ownership and engagement among your workforce. So when you're sitting around that table making decisions, there needs to be that empty seat sitting at that table. And every valued team member of your workforce needs to be sitting in that seat. And they need to be recognizing that the business decisions we're making are impacting that person and your entire workforce that's sitting in that seat. So prioritizing, in summary, their well-being, their growth, their engagement, creating that thriving work environment is not only something we want to thrive for our guests, but we also want to do that for our associates.
Yeah, and have you, Rachel, employed any strategies to sort of that career advancement portion of it, or making those associates feeling like they're a part of something? How do you do that in your area?
Yeah, so I agree with everything Jerry said. That is a huge focus for us as well. Just personal and professional development of every single employee. I think of your boss as such a huge contributing factor to your general health and happiness in your day-to-day life. And so how do I infuse that into my management team? How do they in turn infuse that into their associates that work for them? I am super open to feedback. I have structured time to meet with every single employee, housekeeping to management team at minimum once a month. And try to be as actionable as possible on any and all feedback that they provide. Sometimes that's large, really wonderful ideas that create a whole new revenue stream for our organization. And sometimes it's something so incredibly small and simple that with executing or changing this small thing that I may not have even seen or have known about, it has a kind of ripple effect of just satisfaction and engagement across each individual department. We have a what we call a BPA program here. It is blowing people away, and we focus very much on our guests. So, we have a revenue line item for doing things that are above and beyond for our guests. We do that for our employees as well. So if that's recognizing birthdays, professional or personal accomplishments, things that are happening outside of their lives here at the hotel. We were always looking for ways to also just be really keyed in to their lives and being, a supportive part of that life. We've made some really tactical changes this year as well with scheduling. For example, no full-time employee works more than 4 days a week. So, just really keying into that work-life balance that everyone is seeking, and no one that works full-time works both Saturday and Sunday. So we've done a lot of shifting of our schedules to make sure that life outside of work is just as prioritized as life inside of work.
Is that pretty challenging being the 24/7, 365 industry? I mean, is that how, it sounds like you've had to get really creative in how you're doing that.
We have been very creative. That has been the theme of the year, is HR creativity. So yes, definitely hard to structure as we got started. But now that we are in this shift structure and this is how everyone is operating, we can't even imagine that we did it the other way before. This has really opened up our employees' lives and has given them kind of renewed interest and loyalty to our entire business of hospitality, to be able to keep in touch with their family and friend obligations on weekends and evenings, and also still be engaged in our business that requires weekend and evenings. So it has been a wonderful change.
Okay. And Mark, any follow-up comments on any of those topics?
I have a lot, but I'll narrow it down. First of all, I think Jerry and Rachel really highlight the value of having incredible leadership that's empathetic and always keep the employee voice at the front of the conversation. I'm just blown away listening to the two of you and how you really advocate for your employees. If I step back towards the retirement benefits world, which is obviously where we live, what we see is, in the retention space, if you get the right plan in place, you can actually reduce your first year attrition by up to 40%. Right. So that's kind of a key one in an industry where there's quite often a relatively high level of turnover. And then on top of that, the other element we see is, so yes, there's that 40% sort of initially just by offering the right plan, but you can also structure your plan to give incentives for staying longer at the organization, right? And that's key. And I think, being able to say, hey, we will reward you for being, part of our team, part of our family for longer. And that starts to, okay, we see that you're taking care of us now, but the more you invest in us, the more we'll invest in you. And I think that kind of partnership that can happen can really cement the bond of trust and relationship between the employee and the organization. I mean, obviously, this is, in conjunction with the stuff that Jerry and Rachel were talking about that is so employee focused every minute of every day anyway. So, yes, that's kind of what we would, from the retirement benefit space, would add into that conversation.
Yeah, I think it's very clear that being in touch with your employees is really the key part of all of this, because you can't retain them and be connected with them if you don't know what they're about and be close to what matters to them. And Rachel, you sort of alluded to sort of upending traditional staffing models. And I imagine a lot of that has to do with, well, when labor gets short and you're having to do more with less, you have to really get serious. And I'm really interested in your perspective on sort of how you decided and made the decision of how to rethink the staffing model, because I know you're probably always weighing that against how's that going to affect the guest experience, right? So really interested to see sort of your thought process and how you went about that.
It really came from a robust conversation with the team. So we have an all-team meeting cadence once a quarter, and a standing topic in every all-team meeting is benefits. So what is making you happy and engaged? What do you think we need to add to our program? What is making you happy here? And what can we work on? And a lot of feedback came to us about our shift structure and our employees not feeling like they could participate in family events or see friends on the weekends. And so, we really took this small nugget of information from our team and committed to making it happen. I am really blessed to have a staff that is really wonderful. So the guest impact is not really seen. There's no difference between my team that has Sundays off and my team that has Saturdays off. So you're getting a wonderful guest experience no matter what. I'm very blessed in that regard. It's all about employee feedback. So what we are hearing from them, as much as humanly possible, we are trying to put into place for that retention that Mark was talking about. We have instituted something similar this year, which is, a longevity program. So a kind of growing bonus structure for each year of staying with our company. And then just making sure that in the time that they are staying with us, we are taking as much of their contributions to our overall growth as an organization and acting on them.
Yeah, and Jerry, have you at Highgate, have you guys sort of rethought traditional staffing models and sort of what impact on retention of employees have you seen due to some of the changes you've made?
Yes, the hospitality industry is facing an acute shortage of skilled staff for their hotels, and we all have had to rethink the traditional staffing models and create more flexible and agile staffing outlines for each hotel, and each hotel is distinctly different, and some of those ways, while implementing technology and automation, that really is now going to come into scope. Again, Chat GPT, huge, coming on the rise, but implementing technology and automation is essential to strike a balance between, particularly in hotels, a human touch and preserving the personalized associate experience and guest experience that is hallmark to our industry. So some of the things that we have done, our self-service technologies have been implemented. There have been some chat box and virtual assistants where you can deploy chat box to assist, for instance, on those benefit questions for your valued team members, or for those higher value activities or guest interactions. There are automations to revenue management systems that have been put into place, new staffing and scheduling software that can optimize work schedules and look and mirror associate availability and skills to what the business needs are. There's also some additional kind of shift in the learning and development spaces where you adopt new learning and management systems. We have adopted Cornerstone on Demand here within our organization, equally partnering with Franklin Covey, eCornell, all of those training platforms, and trying to push those continuous improvement learnings and upskilling to enhance the existing workforce to a more automated model. But even also things such as associate engagement surveys, which I loved that Rachel brought up. Those associate engagement surveys are typically traditional. They're held on an annual basis or every 6 months. We actually shifted ours to an online platform that's available like TripAdvisor for your associates. Every single hotel out of all of our 550 hotels has its own QR code, and they can go on in real time and they can put in the information about tools that they need to do their job more effectively, things that they are looking for, guest experience. They can go ahead and recognize a fellow colleague, and that goes real time to the leader of the hotel. We firmly believe you quit a boss. I love again that Mark and Rachel outlined that, because again, it's what you do with that feedback that makes the difference, and that's what makes people want to stay. I can recall a time very, very funny when I went in a hotel and I saw that they had some distressed equipment at the front desk, and I waved a fairy wand, and the next day they came in with all new equipment at the front desk. And they called and they said, gosh, thanks for the new equipment at the front desk, but could we have a stapler? So sometimes those retention tools are those basic fundamentals that we're really not thinking of. And so I love the fact that including people in the processes are of critical importance. And so as we work to strike a balance on the technology that's coming fast and furiously, because social media and online platforms are everywhere, it is those sites that we can also use to leverage and attract talent and help us with engaging potential candidates and showcasing hotel culture and associate benefits and really advertising those open opportunities.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So Mark, do you have any follow-up thoughts to that conversation? I imagine, employees they have a lot of technical questions about their retirement accounts, and any way that they can self-help and use technology, I think is probably really valuable to the workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it probably isn't as, innovative as the stuff Jerry was just talking about, but technology has so many advantages in this space. For instance, you can now totally revamp the experience of somebody coming in to access and understand their investments, their 401k plan. It used to be that was so overwhelming that you'd jump in and suddenly you're there going, okay, I don't feel like I'm a very smart person anymore once I've actually looked at my 401k plan. I feel like I don't really understand. And that was always holding people back, right? That's on the employee side, but there's also great technological advantages by thinking about how do all the different platforms that I need integrate together. And I know, Jason, this is one that's also pretty close to your heart as well. That if you find a progressive, provider, let's take payroll, let's take Heartland, right? So if you find someone like that who integrates with your other providers like Human Interest, you can now so streamline some of those back-end processes as to they almost don't really exist, right? So now you can offer something like a 401k without the detriment of time, right, that you would normally invest in administering that, right? So now your team can actually focus on the really high touch stuff that Rachel and Jerry have really talked about so much, right? Because if you find the right integrations where one platform can really work well with another, you can take hours out of that process and put it back into really listening to that employee voice that is so valuable.
Yeah. And Mark, you outed me there about my nerdiness of loving payroll so much. So thanks for the whole world now knows how nerdy I am. But
I feel you. I'm the same way with retirement, and that's even more niche, Jason.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to. We're nearing the end of our time together. Are there any other thoughts or points that any of you want to make about this topic before we close it up?
Let me ask Mark, are you seeing a rise on deferred compensation plans and LTIP plans being revamped for many organizations?
We are certainly seeing a rise in both new plans and people switching from plans to plans that have a lot more flexibility and a lot more power, right? It is now, you now have the opportunity as an organization to really define a plan that can work for your organization, right? So you can pull the levers, you can check the boxes and set up a plan that feels like it's a custom fit for your organization, and particularly the demographics, viewpoints, perspectives of your employees, right? And so because of that, what we do see is a number of people saying, actually, anything that I did have doesn't really fit me all that well anymore. And so I know I'm going general here, but that's really what we're starting to see is, in the same way you both are spending so much time tailoring your overall experience for the employees. You can now find tailored plan design to support the sort of priorities of both the organization and the employees at the same time. So yes, there is this much more fluid movement of organizations going, you know what, anything I did have, I didn't have that for the right reasons. I can now jump in and I can move some of those levers to find something that supports us as an organization and obviously the employees, and make them feel like we are setting them up for the future. Because, you know, having a benefits package like that supports all the other work that you and Rachel have very sort of eruditely explained of how important it is to make people feel trusted and respected in your teams and in your organizations.
Yeah, I think that has been a reoccurring theme throughout the conversation today, is being close to your employees, knowing what is important to them, and being creative and rethinking the game a lot of times, and how you support them, and how you make the benefits and make it attractive to them as an employer. So I want to thank everyone, all my guests, Jerry, Rachel, and Mark, very much for the contributions today on the webinar. I want to thank everyone listening today for joining the International Luxury Hotel Association webinar. We've had a good time, and I think we've had some really good content that will be valuable to many people. So if you found today the webinar, please share this webinar with others. And if you want to find any of our past recordings, you can go to theilha.com under events, and you can download them there. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. And thanks to the panel as well.